What if your desire to always be nice is the very thing that's slowly making you disappear? What if behind every polite yes lies a silent betrayal of your true self? And what if the person you present to the world is just a mask, while the real you quietly fades away? We become so used to acting a certain way that one day we forget who we really are. Carl Jung captured this perfectly when he said, "We are so much what we are used to appearing to be that in the end we no longer know who we really are." These words aren't just philosophical. They reflect a daily truth for so many of us. We wear the face of someone agreeable, someone helpful, someone who fits in. But in that constant performance, we lose the one person that matters most: ourselves. Think about it. From the time we're young, we are trained to be cooperative, to say yes, to avoid conflict. We are taught that saying yes earns approval, that pleasing others brings peace. But no one tells us that over time, this very pattern might turn into a cage. Imagine that. Your goodness, your helpfulness, your endless compliance. What if it's not really kindness, but a cleverly disguised trap? A habit so deep that it rewrites your identity. You become the person others want you to be, and slowly you vanish from your own story. Jung warned us of this mask of goodness. He didn't see it as pure virtue. He saw it as a dangerous shadow, a shadow that hides fear, a fear of being rejected, misunderstood, or left behind. And in trying to avoid all that pain, we conform. We become agreeable not out of strength but out of fear. We believe silence will keep us safe, that self-denial will keep the peace, but the cost is high. Because as you keep giving yourself away, something within you begins to whisper, "This isn't who I am. This isn't what I want." But you push it down, and in doing so, you silently tell the world, "My needs don't matter. My time isn't valuable. My voice can be ignored." Jung called this the shadow. It's the part of ourselves we hide and fear, the part that aches to be seen but doesn't dare step into the light. And so we walk the path of least resistance. We keep the peace, we smile, we say yes, and we wonder why no one really sees us. The painful truth is this: the more you try to please everyone, the more likely you are to be used, not because people are cruel, but because people respond to what you tolerate. If you set no boundaries, they will cross them. If you stay silent, they will assume it's a yes. And while you may believe you're being kind, what you're actually doing is fading, not just from others, but from yourself. So here's the question: how long can you live like this? How long can you wear the mask before you forget the face beneath it? Because the longer you wait, the harder it becomes to remember who you really were before the world told you who to be. And that's where we'll go next. In the next part of this journey, we'll explore how to reconnect with the self you've buried beneath the expectations. So stay with me. Don't forget to hit subscribe. Tap like if this message resonated with you. Share it with someone who might need to hear this. And let me know in the comments, what part of yourself have you been hiding? We ended the last part with a warning. When you forget who you are just to make others comfortable, you don't just lose authenticity, you begin to disappear. And now we go deeper into that quiet, painful realization. If you never show the part of yourself that dares to say no, that speaks its own truth, that seeks solitude without guilt, you risk becoming nothing more than a hollow reflection, a shell, carefully shaped by the expectations of others, but empty of anything real. And one day, without warning, you wake up with a weight on your chest. You ask yourself in silent panic, why am I so tired? Where did all this quiet resentment come from? Why do I feel unseen even by myself? Carl Jung had a name for this. He called it the persona. The persona is the social mask we are taught to wear. Parents shape it, schools reinforce it, culture rewards it. It teaches us how to function, how to belong, how to be accepted, and yes, we do need that mask. We can't walk through life pouring out every raw thought or indulging every passing emotion. The mask helps us survive. It helps us maintain social order, but Jung's warning was clear. The danger begins when you start believing that the mask is your real face. That's when you begin to lose your soul. Because you were not born to be a silent extra in someone else's story. You came here to write your own. You were not made to blend into the background. You were made to be real. But how can you be real if your first instinct is always to make everyone else feel okay, even when inside you are breaking? This is what chronic people pleasers often learn too late. Every time you avoid conflict by saying yes, you say no to yourself, and that no erases you. Slowly, quietly, painfully, you might think honesty creates distance, but in truth, it builds connection. What creates damage is when you bury your truth just to avoid discomfort. That is the soil where resentment grows. You may believe saying no is selfish, but Jung would say that real selfishness is staying silent, while secretly expecting others to know your limits, then blaming them when they cross lines you never voiced. You may think that being nice makes you noble, but real nobility is knowing who you are so clearly that others don't have to guess. You don't have to earn respect through exhaustion, because suppression always distorts what's real. When you deny your anger, your needs, your voice, you don't become kinder, you become numb, bitter, disconnected. You stop relating to others, you start performing, you edit your reactions. You walk on eggshells to keep people happy, but you're not being honest. You're managing their emotions while ignoring your own. But your body knows, and eventually it speaks. You feel it as exhaustion that never goes away, burnout that doesn't. Make sense? That mental fog where nothing feels clear. You feel it in the anxiety of not wanting to disappoint, in the endless looping thoughts about what you said, what you didn't say, what you wish you'd said differently. This isn't emotional sensitivity. This is emotional captivity. And the more you give, the more people expect. Not always because they're cruel, but because you taught them how to treat you. You said yes so often they forgot your no even existed. And that's when real love becomes impossible, because no one can truly love you if they don't truly know you. You see, the people you try so hard to please, they don't know you. They know your mask. They know your smile. They know the version of you who nods and agrees and never asks for much. And now that you feel ready to change, fear sets in, because you already know what will happen. When you begin setting boundaries, they'll say you've changed, that you're distant, that you're selfish. But that's not the truth. The truth is, they grew used to your silence, your softness, your sacrifice. They never met the real you, but that's about to change. In the next part, we'll uncover what it really takes to reclaim the self you buried, and how to finally draw the line between genuine kindness and quiet self-destruction. Stay tuned for what comes next. Tap like if this resonates. Subscribe to follow the journey. And comment below if you've ever felt invisible while trying to be loved. Last time, we uncovered the painful truth behind people-pleasing, that silence is not always kindness, and compliance often hides self-erasure. Now we move closer to the moment that changes everything when you finally dare to stop playing along. When you start being honest, it doesn't feel like clarity to others. It feels like aggression. Not because you are hurting them, but because for the first time your words begin protecting you. And that, as Carl Jung would say, is where individuation begins. But individuation is not what self-help books sell you. It is not about improving your habits or optimizing your life. It is deeper. It is about claiming what has always been yours, your soul. It is the process of becoming whole, of knowing who you are, including the parts you have been taught to hide. It is developing a voice that isn't borrowed and a no that truly means something. Until you reach that inner wholeness, there will always be a hollow place inside. You will feel strangely out of sync with your own life, like you are living in someone else's story. That's not depression. That's your true self banging on, the walls begging to be let out, shouting through your pleasant tone, weeping behind your pleasant emails. It's the part of you that's tired of acting, and the only way forward is to stop. Stop pleasing, stop performing. What happens when you do? Some people will panic, some will be offended, others will try to guilt you back into softness, back into silence. Let them. That is not your burden to carry anymore, because what they call cruelty is actually clarity. You are not here to decorate someone else's life. You are here to live your own, to say the things that matter, to draw the line even when others are disappointed, to walk away from anyone who only loved you because you were easy to manage. That isn't selfishness. That's awakening. According to Jung, the persona is not inherently false. It is a mask we wear to function, to move through school, family, work, relationships. It helps us survive. It helps us blend in. But if you forget that it is a mask, if you start to believe it is you, that's when the danger begins. Because then, you lose something irreplaceable, your authenticity. And this, sadly, is what happens to chronic people pleasers. Somewhere, early in life, they learned that honesty leads to rejection, that needs invite punishment, that to be loved they had to perform. So they adapted. They smiled instead of crying. They said yes instead of expressing pain. They made themselves small so others could feel big. They were taught directly or indirectly that love is conditional, that it must be earned, and so the mask fused to their face. Modern advice often sounds simple. Set boundaries. Speak your truth. Take time for yourself. But Jung knew it wasn't just about behavior. He understood that this urge to please isn't just a bad habit. It is a deep spiritual fracture. Because when you deny your real self long enough, you lose more than your voice. You lose your identity. And then the questions creep in. Who am I if I stop being helpful? Will anyone love me if I stop being nice? What happens if I finally say what I really feel? These are not trivial doubts. These are survival fears. Because at one point in your life being liked may have been the only way to feel safe. And now you have confused being liked with being safe. But here's the cost. Every time you choose safety over truth, you disappear a little more. You become someone everyone depends on, but no one truly knows. And here lies the hidden wound of people pleasers. They do receive love, but it always feels slightly hollow, because deep down they know it's not them being loved. It's the mask. So how do you unmask? How do you reclaim the parts of yourself you buried so long ago? That's where we're headed next. Stay with us. Tap like if this truth speaks to you. Subscribe for more reflections like this. And don't forget to share or comment below, because even one honest voice can inspire a quiet revolution. Previously, we confronted the painful truth that the love you thought you had may vanish the moment you assert yourself. But that loss is not the end. It is the beginning of something far more real. When that so-called love disappears, after your first honest no, what is left behind is often guilt, silence, and a storm of self-doubt. But as Carl Jung would say, good, because this is where your real life begins. He believed that individuation, the lifelong process of becoming who you truly are, is the cure for people-pleasing. It is how you reclaim the parts of yourself you had to bury just to be accepted, your anger, your selfishness, your pride, your truth. Individuation is not about becoming perfect. It is about becoming whole. It is standing up and saying, yes, I care about others, but I also care about myself. Yes, I want peace, but not at the cost of my truth. Yes, I love you, but I won't lose myself to keep you. This is not rebellion. It is maturity, and if someone cannot accept that, let them walk away. Because, as Jung taught, the self is not discovered through applause. It is revealed through conflict. Through that uncomfortable clash with those who only ever loved your obedience. Through the courage it takes to risk rejection in order to finally become real. And here is the paradox. When you stop pleasing everyone, you do not lose love. You lose imbalance. You lose the users, the manipulators, the ones who only came close when you were silent and easy to control. And in their place, you make space for those who see the real you, who love you not because you bend, but because you stand. Jung warned us that the persona, our social mask, becomes dangerous when it gets too rigid. When you are always kind, always agreeable, always calm, always composed. At that point it stops being a tool and becomes a cage. You will start to notice it when talking feels draining, when you obsess over the smallest decisions, when your first instinct is to say yes, not because you want to, but because you fear saying no. You will feel invisible even with those closest to you. These are not minor symptoms. These are cracks in the mirror of your identity. And the more you pretend, the more that reflection stops looking like you. Not because you are weak, but because the performance became so convincing, even you forgot where the role ended. But here is the good news. The moment you see this, you are already halfway free. You do not need permission to change. You do not need everyone's understanding. You just need courage. The courage to pause, to say no, to watch someone get disappointed and still choose you. Jung didn't want you to become harsh or unkind. He wanted you to become so rooted in your truth that no one could manipulate you again. And once that happens, something shifts inside you. You begin to see how much of your life has been choreographed to meet other people's comfort. You remember all those quiet yes moments when every cell in your body whispered no, and maybe for the first time. You ask yourself, who am I when I am no longer trying to please anyone? That question is not small. It shakes the foundation of who you were trained to be. Because when you stop pleasing people, you do not just lose convenience. You lose your old identity. And what is born in its place is not someone cruel, not someone bitter, but someone real. Someone who no longer needs validation to feel worthy. Someone who can say no without guilt and yes without fear. That is individuation, not a spiritual trophy, not moral perfection, but the raw, uncomfortable, liberating truth that finally becomes your essence. So if you are ready to keep walking this path to meet the deeper layers of your mind, your voice, your power, do not stop here. Subscribe to the Shining Life channel. Like, share, and comment with your reflections. Turn on notifications to never miss a single thought that might just change your life, because sometimes all it takes is a single quote to to awaken everything you have forgotten you are.